Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Cackling Pumpkins, and here we got another Sketchpad video here. Now, goddamn, I've been recording a lot of these and I haven't edited a single one. Let me go ahead and check how many of these I've recorded. Just the Sketchpad videos. And this is episode 12. This is the 12th episode being recorded, and I haven't even started editing. Dang, dude. Freaking epic. Alright, so here's a concept for a game I was going to create. It was going to take place the platform fighter I wanted to create. The idea is that it was going to be a 3D fighter, but instead stages are going to be set up like dioramas. So there was very limited things you could do. I was very concerned on how you can make it so that like characters didn't just shove each other in a corner and just spam over and over. Shrek Super Slam introduced a pretty interesting idea, where if like you use your attack when you're facing a wall and walking towards it, you would actually zoom in the opposite direction. It would also count as an attack. That's a good way to handle that. That game is actually like pretty good considering, you know, it's a licensed game from that era. Here's a take on King Throatsworth, another character from Wave's world. He doesn't look like this now. I would say he looks way different, way more exaggerated. But this is how he was supposed to look. He takes inspiration from King Wart from Super Mario Bros. 2, and you can kinda note that from his design. Things have obviously changed though. He takes less inspiration from that character. Here is a concept art for Seth Lyrite, a character from Alice Darkson who is going to appear in the next arc. Which, that arc probably has already started. I keep forgetting this is being recorded in February, and this might not be uploaded till like June or July, and the second arc would have already started by then. But anyway, this is how he was going to look, but then I thought, it doesn't really fit his personality, and it doesn't really seem that interesting, so I went for the gotcha-looking boy. That fits him way better now. Here is a character with a Raven aesthetic. Don't think I ever done anything with her. I'm not sure if her leaning forward is intentional or I just accidentally did that. But hey, it's kind of a neat idea, even though I feel like there could be more to this design. I think that's why I didn't really do anything with her. I did create a character who would use a plague mask. Her name is Rip. This was a take at redesigning Shade for Eclipse's story. Now, the reason I didn't go with this was because, well, I don't know. I think because, like, there's too much detail going on here and that would be hard to animate. But this is adorable, honestly. Just look at this thing. What's this guy? Uncle Chance. Uncle Chance. Oh yeah, because there's like a game, I forget what it's called, but it has like this plastic dome around two die, and if you push it down, it pops, and it makes the dice go up and change. And that's what his head is supposed to be. I forgot what game does that though. Probably a few. There's a game me and my sister used to play when we were little. So yeah, this guy was obviously meant to be like a toy. I guess I was thinking of an idea for like a party game or something like that. I always keep making offhand ideas for games and never end up really doing anything with them. This is a character who probably either replaced him or been with him. I don't know. He was a 8-ball, obviously. His face would change and roll around for different expressions. That'd be kind of neat. Hey, Mario Party, hire me. I got new characters for you. Oh yeah, you don't like to use new characters. You just want to keep using the main cast and occasionally Bowser's enemies. And if you want to do something new, it's going to be something like Pink Cold Peach. Here's another version of the character, but now he's like a big toy taped to a tiny toy car, like a tiny NASCAR, and he would walk around with his arms. So, to a toy's perspective, a toy like this tall, he would look massive. Here is a take on what if Goomba was in Smash. I still really like this idea. You may have seen this in another sketch video. So, let's go over some of these. This is, I think, his dash attack. It says dash right here, so yeah. The idea is that he would spin on his head, kind of like if you hit him with a spin in Super Mario Galaxy. His side smash would be him jumping forward and landing on his face. I thought that would be a good idea, like you could probably edge guard with it, like if you do it off a cliff, it would still count even if he's past the platform. Neutral air, he would just spin around, probably doing multiple hits. Up smash would be the hammer from Hammer Brother. His combo attack would just be him stomping the ground over and over. His down smash would be using a Koopa shell, surrounding him kind of like in Mario Kart when you're just holding the Koopa shells. And the up tilt would just be, I forgot what these dice are called. They're called chompers? Not exactly sure what their names are. But hey, pretty cool concept for a character. That's a blank page. Why did I skip that? Here's a take on an alternate outfit for Alice Darkson for training. She would have her hair in a ponytail, boxing gloves. She would be wearing flaming fire pants. And is that a tattoo? Maybe. I guess this is meant to be like an alternate costume for Alice. Here is a take on an old video game character that some of you may not recognize. This is Mark and Bert. They're from an NES game called Monster Party. It was a very strange, unusual game, and I thought, like, hey, you know, what if these two were in Smash? So I kind of drew this as like a very simple concept of both Mark and Bert. And the idea is like they would switch between the two, and they'd be used for different things. Mark would be used for standard attacks, while Bert would probably be used for specials, or maybe they'd be like Zelda, or like how Zelda and Sheik used to be, or like, I guess a current comparison would be Pyra and Mithra, or the Pokemon trainer. Not sure. Here it is, the very first drawing of Cackling Pumpkins. The very first. This would be used as a reference for the logo that you would see in the corner here sometimes for certain videos. This is where it all started for Cackling Pumpkins, the very first sketch. And I skipped a page, but this is actually very important too. These are a bunch of terms and names that I was going to call myself when I was rebranding to Cackling Pumpkins. So here are some names. One was called Slaughterhouse, one was called Murder Chickens, which is ironic because I have a character named Murda, who is a murder chicken. Here is, what's it called? Unstoppable Minds, Psycho House, and Lil Devils. Other names I also thought of, like Cackling Pumpkins is up here, then there's Zombie Pumpkin, Pumpkin Spider, Pumpkin Phobia, the Eight-Legged Pumpkin. Here's just writing a bunch of Halloween terms. Pumpkins, ghost, witch, monster, wing candy, cauldron, trick-or-treat, and bats. I thought I said rats for a second, but another name would be the Eternal Pumpkin, the Witch's Pumpkin, Pumpkin Tricks, Pumpkin House, Pumpkin Town, Unstable Pumpkin, and Pumpkin's Minds. In the end, I was gonna go for Psycho House, but it turns out that name was taken for something. I think it was like a movie, and I don't know why I didn't go for Murder Chickens. I guess I thought the name wasn't that good. In the end, I went for Cackling Pumpkins. Ironically, in all these list of pumpkin names, it was the first one. I guess I was gonna go for Zombie Pumpkin, but that name was taken. I looked it up on Google, and, well... I didn't want to use a name that was taken, so I would look up the terms on Google, see if they were used for anything substantial. Cackling Pumpkins, I think, was like a recipe, like a food recipe I saw. But still, I felt as if, like, there was only one page that was called Cackling Pumpkins before this, and it wasn't like a username or anything. I think it was like a food recipe. So that's why I thought, that's the name. Now, one thing that probably would have deterred me from using Cackling Pumpkins is learning that Cackling Pumpkins as an anagram is CP. Well, why is that important? Well, CP is an anagram for child porn. So yeah, please don't try to shorten Cackling Pumpkins as an anagram, especially if you say something like I love that. Because it's not gonna sound good. Here's some ideas for projects I was gonna make, featuring various silhouettes. We have, okay, back to 2008, this was going to be a nostalgia series where videos would look like old sketches made from around that time. Didn't get made. TRA, this was going to be a series where I just made different kind of monsters and showed them off and applied they all live in another dimension that this organization would be examining. Didn't come to be. Crimson Kingdom Lore was a series that I would go over like the 13 Guardians of Reality and set up sort of like the multiverse that all of these things exist in. Did come to be in 2019. Red Room, or what's that said? A Cackling Crimson Kingdom Theater. I'm not sure what that one is, but anyway, Red Room is meant to be. Red Room is the name that we'd use for Let's Plays back then before it became Screaming Skeletons, but Turbo is still essentially the face of Screaming Skeletons, so he's still relevant. Came to be. It technically already existed anyway. Let's see. This was going to be a series involving puppets. I wanted to make puppets, but I never did. It was way too expensive, and I didn't necessarily understand it. It was going to feature two monsters. It was like a Monsters, Inc. kind of story, where it would star monsters that were meant to scare kids, but to deter them from learning about the monster world, like Monsters, Inc. once again. But it was going to be treated as more like an office thing, which they kind of did already. For Disney Plus, there's a series called Monsters at Work, so they kind of already did that. But except this would take place within, like, the real world, and the monsters would have to it would be more mature, it would be more adult, but the series never came to be. These were my takes on the monsters that would have been inside. We would have had this snake, which I thought would have been easy to make. He would have been just a sleeve puppet. This guy would have been more complex, though. Then here is, what's it called? Tales of the Grimoire Sapien. Originally, that was going to be the name of Elizabeth's story. Now that's not. It's going by a different name now. This hasn't come to be. This hasn't, but I am working on it now, so, 3 out of 6. Not great, not terrible, though. These are concept art for the Emotalings. These would appear inside little animated shorts called It's Okay. It was probably my most colorful, most cheerful property I've ever made. It's just a series to help people with mental health, and the Emotalings are aliens that are the physical embodiment of positive coping mechanisms. Even though, like, he's depression, he clearly isn't depressed. He knows how to handle it, you know. The series used, like, calming music from video games, just had these guys in different poses bouncing around as I would give my own personal advice while also going over my own story. And this is depression, this is anger. His design I ended up going with is very similar, except it's one big eye here and a smile, and this part is more simplified. This is Loss. He is one that never came to be, unfortunately. Loss did not exist inside the final product. Loneliness looks a little different, though. There's other concepts. Here's one. There's Yellow. He's anxiety. There's these guys. They never were used for anything. There's, I guess, a jar. Maybe he was supposed to be one, and he just so happened to be shaped like a jar. There is Stress. He's obviously meant to be shaped like a mushroom. And he cute. Here is another take on that stick figure character. God, I really like this guy, apparently. He keeps coming back. Ifrit, the stick figure guy, several other characters, they keep coming back. I guess it's a sign I really should do something with them. Here is a character called Horror. He was going to appear in Alice Darkson, but he was written out of the story. Who knows, he might still come back in. The idea is that he would be the physical embodiment of sleep paralysis. So you can kind of see where that's coming from. Here's a motorcycle. Alice, well, she is going to drive a motorcycle. It's not going to be this. This does not look good. I'm not good at drawing vehicles, just to let you know. But yes, Alice will drive a motorcycle, but it's not going to look like this, though. Might take some notes from it, but look at this guy. Yeah, what the fuck? I guess this is me trying to make a skeleton character, but he just ends up looking like, you know, the character A Real Magical Skeleton from OKKO? He just looks like him. I guess I like his design, and I ended up taking notes from him without realizing it. Here is what's supposed to be a giant tank robot made of cake. I had the idea of, like, what if you had an Overwatch or a Team Fortress 2-like shooter, but starring these cake characters? I can't remember. I think it was going to be like a capture the flag kind of game. I can't remember exactly the details, but it was going to be all cake themed. Here's a funny little character. I think this guy was going to actually talk from this mouth and not this one. This one was just emote. This one would talk. I like the idea of it. I kind of like how he looks, but I feel like there could be more I could do with him. Maybe I can mix him with another sketch. Not exactly sure. Look at this little guy. Look at this dude. Look at this little spongy dude. I think he's a sponge. I don't know. He's got holes in him. Well, I'm not sure exactly what he's supposed to be. But obviously, he's a little feller. If he wasn't, he wouldn't be looking up. Oh, here's Charles, the Real Living Man. Obviously, this is a corpse, and the idea is, like, his mouth would come down, and there'd be a screen, and I was going to show, I don't know, weird kooky stuff in the screen. I don't think he ever came to be. I did create digital art assets for him. I'd have to look for them. If you see him on screen, then, yeah. But if not, I'm sorry. Here is this guy. He's, like, meant to be a parody of Goomba-like enemies in video games. I was going to use him for a series that would essentially... I'm reading this, making sure it's not anything important. I was going to make a series that was going to be parodying video games, but that never came to be. But I did create new designs for it. So, obviously, I'm still interested in the idea. Just, unfortunately, not much really came about it. Here is meant to be a smug Alice Darkson, as smug as my art back then would allow. Obviously, I would do the more cartoony, curved, sharp, bigger mouth. Here is concept art of the Juggernaut of Earth from Crimson Kingdom lore. His proportions are much more cartoony now, and this never got finished because I don't think I was very satisfied with him. This might be the point in time where I may have been starting to draw the Guardians. Here is a concept art of Wave, back when she was just going to wear, like, a bathing suit and swim trunks, and nothing else. And a backpack, too. This is when her tail was just like one big mass before I started to add the frills of her fur, and before I exaggerated a lot of other features. But overall, the body type is very similar. It's just her head, face, and the size of her ears, and adding some fur friffles. And the body type would have been there, and her outfit would definitely was a little while to go. Here's this kooky guy. He ain't got no hands, but I'm assuming he would still be able to grab things with these bandages. I don't think you're supposed to be able to see his face. He may have been made for Alice Darkson, though I can't remember, so he's definitely a character who didn't make it in. I still like the idea of this guy. I like characters who you're not supposed to be able to see their face, so I could probably still use him. I might have to rework him or make him work in my current style. And I guess that's it, unfortunately. This is the one thing about having Sketchpad. Sometimes they don't want to turn the way you want them to. But anyway, that's it for this one. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed this series. It's been going well for me. This is the 12th episode. That being said, I hope you enjoyed the video. And I hope you had a beautiful day. I hope it gets even better. Your connection will be strange. I am scratching my arm, by the way. I have to clarify because that looked suggestive down here.